Welcome back to Unplug with Mel. I'm your host, Mel Mosier. We're excited to introduce our next guest, Holly Darby from Holly Darby Consulting. But before we dive into Holly's incredible story, let's check back into last week's launch, shall we? Our last guest that we wrapped it up with was the awe-inspiring Randy Anderson. I hope that you go back and listen to these episodes because they are just amazing. Going forward, we'll be dropping a podcast once a week on Wednesdays. I figured, halfway through the week, we need to unplug, right? So as we get ready to hear Holly's amazing story, I hope that this helps you stay connected. If you're looking for a mentor, or maybe, you'd like to take on a mentee, or maybe you just kind of want to tell your story, reach out to Unplug with Mel, or even connect with our special guests. They would love to hear from you and that you heard them on this podcast. You can hear us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple. We hope you enjoy this podcast. A special guest, Holly Darby. I can't wait for you guys to get to know her. Briefly, how we got to know each other was actually this week or weekend through HR Southwest. As early as Friday, when we both arrived into town, we had a mixer. Meet and greet, and what did you call it? You called it a meet cute?
Yeah, we had a meet cute, I believe.
And we just happened to sit next to each other as we're getting acclimated into the chapters that were participating in the Texas SHRM meeting that we were having on Saturday. And it was Bruce Waller who sat next to us, and we started doing the introductions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when I said that I was with PB SHRM, you whiplashed your neck so quick to me and goes, I lived in Midland. And I worked with PB SHRM, and I worked for Midland County. And again, that just kind of started our new friendship, I think. Mm-hmm. And I got to know you a little bit, so I asked you to join the podcast because as I've gotten to get to know you this weekend, you have a story to tell. And I want the audience to hear it so that they know that connections like this can meet anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I've enjoyed our meet cute, and I thank you for coming up on this podcast. Again, as you've been watching the other podcasts drop from HR Southwest, you know that the theme of this is to tell your story and inspire infinite growth. Anyone and everyone has a story, no matter who you are or where you come from. And we should have a platform somewhere where you can say it and tell it so that it reaches whoever it needs to reach, whether it's 100 people or just one person. And so Holly, as we go through our questions here today, our first one up happens to be, it's your bio. Who are you, and where do you work, your community, your projects? Obviously, we're both in our local chapters. You're president-elect mm-hmm. for 2024. Mm-hmm. You're taking over Mid-Tex.
Yes.
And I am president-elect of PB SHRM, but I don't start until 2025.
Oh, okay. And
so I get to watch you and your role and learn from you as I become president, as well as our current president for PB SHRM is Megan Baeza, and she's amazing. So I'm going to be learning from her as well. We learned a lot at Texas SHRM meeting.
We did. It was a great time.
I don't think we had a moment to actually sit there and go just wow until we got back to our hotel rooms. But between the keynote speaker there, Jovan.
Oh, he was awesome.
Is that Jovan Glasgow. Mm-hmm. Just amazing. And so Roseanne and her team through Texas SHRM has just done a fabulous job this weekend to incorporate.
So. Mm-hmm.
So, Holly, who are you? What's your story?
Holly. I'm Holly Darby. I have been in HR for about, over 20 years. I don't want to completely age myself, and so we won't get to the specifics.
She doesn't look a day over 30, y'all. Just so you know.
I'll pay you later for that. So
pay promo.
But I've been in HR for many years. I do have my bachelor's in management. I had always told people that my associate's degree was in marketing. And the other day, because I was moving, and I found my associate's diploma, because, once you get it, you kind of put it away. and it's not been in marketing, it's been in management. And so for all those people that I've given my copies of my diplomas to, they're probably wondering, wow, can she read? So I started early with my associate's degree, and then I do have a master's of business administration, and I believe I'm a lifelong learner, and I think that's why I never chose HR. But I believe that's why I keep getting sucked into it, because I really believe that's a founding principle for HR.
Yeah, it really is. So Holly, can I briefly tell them how I loved your story?
Which one?
Like the beginning of, was it 2021 that you retired?
Well, it kind of goes back to, I worked for Midland County for a while, and then I got recruited away from there to work at a bank, and they sold in February of 2020. Mm-hmm. So this journey technically started in 2020, February of 2020.
During COVID?
Right before COVID really shut down everything.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so I stayed off work for a while because I was really going to start my company then. Okay. And that's where I was really starting to research and really look into things, because I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur. But for years, people always told me I should just go off and do my thing and just be myself and do what I want to do. And I'm such a control freak. It's like, I don't know if I have enough control with that. I want security. I want to have those that benefits, and I want to know where my paycheck comes from.
There's a huge risk taking
right.
as an entrepreneur, yeah.
Right, so that was never a real desire of mine. I liked to have the security, and but when the bank sold, and I loved the bank. It was one of my favorite jobs. I really loved my CEO. He was a man of faith, and he really pushed me to be the better me. And I really owe that to him. And so I started exploring this then in February of 2020. And of course, the country shut down and everybody was hair on fire, kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And a recruiter reached out to me, I want to say it was in May, but I might have my dates off, and said that there was a need for an interim director. And I thought about it, and I thought, I really didn't want to work in an office 8 to 5 again. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to do my thing. But the more I thought about it, I thought, it's time. And so it got me out of my comfort zone. It got me out of Midland, and because I was very happy where I was, loved my house, and so I moved to College Station. And
that is a change.
It was
from Midland to College Station.
They actually had trees and water.
What are those?
And it rained, and so I actually had to go buy an umbrella. I didn't know,
I don't have one.
Yeah, I had to go buy one. And so that's where I ended up in College Station, and I worked for them for 2 years, and I mainly was handling like the back burner projects, because a lot of times HR people get so busy with the day-to-day, putting out fires, loving on their people, training their people, that they really might not get a chance to rewrite policy or rewrite job descriptions or look at compensation structures. Mm-hmm. Well, the company that had hired me, they had the comp part really well. They had that side, and that's not my favorite side, so I was ecstatic that I didn't have to touch the comp at all. I was happy with that. But I helped them with their policy and job descriptions and some departmental structures, and it was all kind of their ideas that I just put to paper. And so during that 2 years, I really thought, I really could be doing this for other people, not just one company. And so when they were done with the projects that they had in mind, that's when my decision to go off on my own back in February of 2020 started. So I went ahead and I left there, I guess, in July of 2022, and I took the rest of the year off. I traveled and saw family and decided to simplify life. I had Bruce Waller yesterday during his meeting. He mentioned, I think it was Bruce, mentioned the Minimalist Netflix.
Yep, it was Bruce.
Okay.
Good old Bruce.
I watched that, and of course, then I start selling everything and downsized dramatically and moved closer to family so I could explore what's out there for me.
He was right on the money with it, that when you do it, it's kind of freeing.
Right.
And yeah, so I enjoyed that part of his thing.
When did you decide to take on the company after your sabbatical?
My sabbatical is a good word for it.
Your sabbatical?
I did a lot of soul searching, so yeah, that could go with that.
You decided to launch this year?
Yes, I started January of 2023.
Oh, way to come out in the new year.
Right. And
it's Holly Darby Consulting. And I was getting to talk to you because I was like, there's different consulting companies out there. What's your niche? And you said legal, and I was quite shocked by that because you don't hear that often, that someone really loves the legal part of HR. And a lot of people don't realize how heavily legal is in HR. We always kind of joke that eventually in your career with HR, you need a pseudo law degree.
Yes, absolutely.
We know a lot of the law, but we don't go take the bar exam and become actual lawyers because we realize we don't want to do that. No. And so I was fascinated by that. And we'll talk about a little bit about in that journey, what are some key moments or experiences that have shaped you to run your consulting business? I mean, well, obviously there's some journey in there.
There is. In the beginning, especially back in February of 2020, when people were really telling me I needed to go and do my own thing, I was really hesitant because you do look around and you see, consulting companies all over.
In different capacities.
Capacities. Yeah. Well, when sometimes I wish I wouldn't have used consulting because I want to be a partner. I don't want to consult. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to help you. I want to work beside you. So, but when I was doing the LLC paperwork, that's what came out, And, when you think of consulting, you think, oh my goodness, everybody does the same thing because that's how you're seeing
comparison.
That's how you're seeing the world is from your eyes. So I'm thinking there's 1,000,001 consultants that are probably better than me in what I'm doing. And so in February 2020, this is another one of those pivotal moments, if you want to say, when I was initially preparing to do my own thing. I had asked some people through LinkedIn to give me a recommendation. And it's kind of like, again, going back to Bruce Waller's, is like those 3 words that people would use for you.
Yeah.
That was kind of where I was headed of. And the one that stood out to me the most was one of the ladies that had worked at the bank, and she was a great employee. I never really had any interaction with her as HR or anything to that nature. And so I would really think she would not think of me, because we'd never had any negative or interaction. And I worked there for, I guess, 8 years. And she heard through the grapevine that I was asking for recommendations. And so she put one on my LinkedIn, and it just floored me because I'm thinking, I didn't even ask her for a recommendation because I didn't think
that there was something for her to say.
Right. There was any context for her. And she had the most heartfelt, compassionate, grateful recommendation I could ever have. You would think I paid her for it, honestly, is pretty awesome as it was. And that really kind of gave me the kick in the pants to, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I can do this. And so that's really where the kick in the pants came from, is the people that you never think I don't want to use the word matter because that's not what I mean, but
it's actually like you thought you didn't make a difference.
Right.
And so you don't think anyone's going to give you the feedback that you're asking for. But on a side note for the listeners here today, when you give feedback, whether in person or on LinkedIn or a note, if you're acknowledging what they're good at, it holds weight. I had Randy Anderson on the podcast, and he says it's the sound bite that you say that you do not know at the time that you said it the impact, but they took that sound bite with them. And there's so many sound bites that we hear this weekend at HR Southwest or whatever that we're going to take back to our employer, to you running your business, to a friend, to a family member, who knows, because it was that impactful. So I can see what you're saying there with her. So you got it with Lincoln, and then what did you do with that feedback?
Well, that's where I really did the sabbatical. I really did the, what do I want? What can I give back? What am I known for? What legacy am I going to want to leave? And I started just journaling and just writing down things. And it came to be where I did look at all of the reviews I had, when they gave me a going away party at the bank, one of my employees had made me, and I'm going to cry on this one.
I should have grabbed the tissues.
Poster boards, and just everybody wrote something.
Mm-hmm. See, it makes an impact.
And on there for me. And knowing that people stopped and took the time to do that, so I had those poster boards up in front of me going, okay, what can I do to give back? What can I do to continue the legacy I want to have in life? And it came to me that all of those, the thread that ran through all of the feedback that I had been given over the years from employees, from managers, from my boss, the CEO, when I worked at the county, from the judge, everybody, was the fact that I was firm but fair. I had policy, I knew the right and the wrong, but I also could dive deeper and figure out the why behind the situation. I didn't make assumptions, and I made sure the managers stopped and asked why. And that's where I came up with, I want to concentrate on, and I say the legal because it's the policy, the procedures, the documentation side. You know, because I'm not the gregarious person. I'm not going to be the one that does all the icebreaker games, and that's still kind of hard on me because I am an introvert at heart.
That's something we agreed on.
And so that's not who my soul is, and so that's why I decided to go this route.
Okay, and so legal, and I think I heard you talking to other people about how you love to do it one-on-one. You come in, you're an hourly consultant or partner, as you like to be, and you go in and you do the task at hand, whether it's just an hour Teams project or I guess a legal investigation. So tell more about that. What is that like?
Well, a couple of my clients, I do have a few nonprofits right now. It seemed like I had a big surge of those that, one particular has an HR person, the others are just people trying to do the HR function as itself. And the one that I'm thinking of course, had a pretty difficult termination need coming.
Okay.
And they wanted to make sure they handled it nicely, but legally, and made sure it was papered correctly.
Yeah.
They did not have that expertise.
So you came in and provided it.
I was able to come in. I helped the gentleman that was going to do it script it out. I did the termination paperwork and sent him on his way. And so that saved the company some money. It helped them get papered, and they didn't have to hire a full-time person to do that.
No, because it doesn't happen every day. It was just a certain circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, well, that gave us a little bit of feedback on who Holly is and everything like that. And so with it, we're going to move into the next one of what were some of the most significant setbacks and challenges that you faced along the way, and how did you overcome them? Obviously, like trying to launch a business, or maybe it's personal. I do know that you are a mom of a daughter who is now 29.
I know.
So
well, you just aged me now.
I don't know. A day over 30. I'll edit that out.
I always forget how old I am. My daughter always reminds me.
I mean, that's the key of it, Same with my children. But so motherhood and trying to be even before you decided to be an entrepreneur, being just involved heavily in HR and stuff like that. Along your journey, what setbacks or a setback, and what did it challenge you? And how did you feel like? Did you overcome it, or do you still endure it? Type of thing.
I really feel like I might have already answered that a little bit because my favorite job was at the bank in Midland, and they had 4 companies at the time, and the CEO, I was a trusted advisor to the CEO, and I really enjoyed that job. I enjoyed the people. It was frustrating. I mean, I don't want to say it's all rainbows and
not
glitter.
wrapped up in a bow,
right?
Yeah,
but 90% of the time it was a really good job, and I met some fantastic people along the way during that position. And so when we found out that the owner had decided to sell, it was a very heartbreaking moment for us, and I really thought I was going to retire from there. Because I still thought I have 10 more years that I would like to.
Your growth plan.
Yeah.
Which is another
Right.
Bruce tidbit.
Right.
Okay, so then we'll move right along into it's really what I want to capture in all those journeys of, did you have doubt? Did you have some failure parts in there? And
Every day.
Every day. Well, okay. Well, then it goes into the next part of it was, how did you stay motivated and maintain your focus in this? Because on your objectives, because obviously with our growth plan or a business plan, creating the LLC, how did you conquer the doubt and feeling like a failure in certain things to launch it? Or maybe something's personal. Maybe it's a personal thing that you felt like the doubt and the failure were creeping in.
And it does, the imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's a huge one for me. And I think a lot of it was, I think that's where leadership comes in. So I'm going to kind of give a roundabout answer to that.
Okay.
There's those of us that do not ask for leadership, that we've never wanted leadership. I never wanted HR. I didn't, but I feel like that the universe puts you where they need you. And going back to like the statements from people that I have dealt with in the past, even when I've had to do a hard termination. I remember one particular lady, she was shocked. It was a very difficult termination, and it was probably like 6 months later, I saw her at the grocery store. And I'm thinking, and she was with her husband, and I'm thinking, oh, here's going to be awkward. And so I'm thinking, do I shoot down a different aisle? What do I do? And she came up to me and hugged me and told me thank you, because I handled it with respect, and I helped her see where the light on the other side.
Yeah.
And that because some people do get kind of stagnant in their position, and as an HR professional, there's times where it's time for them to move on.
Yes.
We
can't keep a round in a peg hole type of analogy. I'm horrible with analogies, just so y'all know.
And so all the times that I've had feedback to that is kind of like, I sat in a class today, and the lady's name just left my brain, but she even said, to remember those times. You might be giving advice, but you got to remember to take your own advice too.
That's huge.
And so that was one of the sound bites I took from that class.
I love it. Well, in that too, when you said a roundabout way or whatever, but it was important because you didn't ask for HR, you didn't look into leadership, and it just developed organically the way it did. And then it turned into a calling, and now it's your own company. And those are the things that we get pushed into ways that we don't recognize our own talent, or if we're equipped to do it, and other people feed you. Other people tell you, hey, Holly, I recognize this in you, and then you try it out. And so I think that kind of helps negate imposter syndrome, because it wasn't like we chose it, we should be equipped. Someone's brought that passion into us, whether it's in HR, whether it's sales or marketing, management. I've met some great people, and I get to hear their stories, and it's always like, I didn't really see myself in this role. And so it's good to hear that, it's a continual theme with it. So we're going to move into a victory or a success for you in this life. I mean, 30 years old.
Yeah, my short life.
Your short life, in quotes here. What's something that sparks you into where you want people and the listeners to know that in the trials and the tribulations or the peaks and valleys, that there is some success and victory in there?
Wow. A specific example, or
maybe it's all comparison at that point, like, is it just where you are now? You just feeling like you're,
this is going to sound where I don't want to sound conceited or anything, but even when you have the bad moments, you take time and you look at where you are in life. And if you would have asked the 23-year-old me, if at my age, which we're not discussing, if I would be in the situation I'm in, where I do have the flexibility to go off on my own. My daughter has a great job. She's off my payroll. Hallelujah.
Amen.
And so even at the dark times, and there are dark times, there are hard times. I'm dealing with older parents right now. That's very hard for me. These are my heroes, and they're aging. And so going through that has been very difficult. But then I have to remember to take stock in where I am and how I got there. I've gotten there with, my CEO, like I was just talking about. He was phenomenal, and he was such a godly man, and he walked the talk. He wasn't one of those hypocritical people.
He led by example.
He did. And so seeing how other people have got to his level, being authentic, it kind of helps me continue to look at the good.
Oh yeah.
Even when there are failures. I launching this in January, I was terrified. I thought, what if I get to the end of the year and I don't have any clients?
The fear and the doubt coming, the uncertainty. Right. Failure is a way of the unknown, and fear is. But then failure is you're giving consent to feeling like you just started day by day.
Yeah.
Day by day. You want growth, but if you go, I started in January, and if I don't, by December, wait a minute, December's 12 months away.
Right. Let's still have some time.
You have time, and it just happens, but that doubt and that enemy and the fear, it comes out.
And so my very first client signed in January.
Oh, wow. So, victory.
Well, and it was, again, a contact I had had previously at my other position, and he had gone off on his own, and it worked because my business model is to help those small to medium-sized businesses that might not have a full-time HR person, and
or
so
it doesn't have the billing or the revenue for a full-time staff.
Right.
And so doing contract to contract as a startup it's brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant.
And a lot of the consulting companies, because I don't want to get out of control or anything, but a lot of the consulting companies I've learned do retainers. Well, some of these small companies
can't even do that.
They don't want retainers, and so I don't mind billing hourly.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to kind of listen to what other people are needing and mash it all up and come up with this.
A good solid business plan that works for you, but also each individual business that you're taking on, and the right clients for the right Holly.
Right, exactly.
Well, we're going to move right into encouraging listeners and viewers today. What would you say would be an advice that you give others if they were feeling the urge to tell their story and pursue their passions?
I think this is something that I've heard my whole entire life. Be it from school or church, wherever you might be. The trials and tribulations you go through make you the person that you are. The person you are can help somebody else become that person by showing them that you're not defined by one piece, that you have multiple, and the fact that even if you are struggling, like I've struggled, we've talked about single moms, there's other people out there that as single parents, mom or dad, that they still have the ability to have a career and to keep going, but I also highly believe in paying it forward.
I think it was another podcast I was talking to where they were talking about being the mentor, the mentee, or in leadership or whatever. And when I was younger, I used to look up. I always looked up or looked forward, and along the journey I had to remember to take back and look down to the next generation, to the next level, because they're looking at you, and I'm like, when did that happen? And are you holding yourself accountable to be what your mentors have been to you? And then, sometimes the doubt or the imposter syndrome, like, I don't have nothing to offer. And that's not true. Because if you're just being transparent and coming on a podcast, or the speakers here at HR Southwest, when they're coming in from experience because they've lived it, they've incurred it, and they want to share it so that we have those tools to bring it back to our employees, partners, or even our children. And I thank you for sharing that. This part is my favorite part of the podcast, where you get to share, and you've mentioned a few already in your story, which I love, because it's if you feel the theme, it's constant. You can take stock who your mentors are, who your colleagues that have played a significant role and providing wisdom and support in your life, and what makes them so important to you. This is your time to speak to them and to others about how important those people were. And I should have probably put the Kleenexes out, so I apologize, because this is where you take stock in who created Holly Darby throughout this whole journey of your beautiful life.
Well, my primary one is my mother. You know, I grew up with her as an HR director, and she worked for a large company, so there was several HR directors, and I thought, man, if that's HR, I don't want anything to do with it. But seeing her just continue to go and continue to thrive in her career. So of course my mom's my number one person that I would look to. My others, I mentioned my CEO that I worked for at the bank, and but honestly, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but honestly, it has been the people that I have come into contact with as my role. I've been HR director, I've been a chief HR officer. Those people that I touch, and that they are the ones that molded me, because I really did try to listen to what they need. And they probably did more training, more on your toes, hair on fire, drills for me to become the manager that I am now. And you know, even some of the training I've done, the questions that they would come back to me on, I'm thinking, wow, I didn't see it that way. You know, I loved all of the people because they have trained me to who I am now.
Wow, that's good. That's really, thanks for sharing that, because sometimes we don't realize how much our staff and our employees, coworkers, feed us more than we feed them. I love that balance, you know.
Well, they always made me want to be better. I mean, they
better,
did.
you do better.
Yeah, they always made me want to be better.
Well, the few questions that we have left for our time, because it goes by so quick, this one's kind of fun. What does Holly do to unplug?
You mean for fun?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, because running a business and coming to conferences like this, it's not as relaxing as people make it sound to be. There's a lot of learning, and what I call it is it's a learning high, because we're always students. But what do you do to recharge, unplug, reset? Because there's burnout, there's just exhaustion and everything in this part. So what do you do? Who's Holly outside of the consulting?
Well, I'll tell a funny story to answer that question.
Sure.
My daughter was 6 years old, and she's an incredibly intelligent person. I mean, I don't know where she got it. It's not from me.
I'm pretty sure it's from you.
But when she was 6 years old, she was sitting in the back seat. I'm driving. We're going down. I don't even remember where we're headed. And she's telling me, Mom, when I go to college, I'm going to go to this college. I'm going to live in a 2-story house. This is how the upstairs is going to be decorated. This is how the downstairs is going to be decorated. And this is what I'm going to do in college. And I said, well, you go for it. And she says, what are you going to do when I go to college? And so I told her, well, I'm going to be a beach bum, live in a dirt hut where I don't have to sweep the floor, and I'm going to teach scuba lessons. And so
I love it.
My main passion has always been scuba diving. I am an assistant instructor for scuba. I haven't gotten to teach in a while, but I love to dive. Absolutely love sharks. And
that's right. I'm going to have to lean into this, because this is how I fell in love with her. We're having some downtime and things, and we get to scroll through her phone, and she tells us this funny story about how a shark fell in love with her and wouldn't leave her alone. And it was just, I was like, that close. No cage. Picture this, y'all. No cage. She's in her scuba gear. She's floating around in there. And was it a tiger shark?
It was a tiger shark.
And you had other people with you. Were they like the scuba people?
Well, you know, I was with my scuba group from College Station, that's when I was still in Midland. It was in 2018. I went with a group from Lubbock. And so I was with the whole scuba group. And then, of course, the dive operation, I want to say there were 6 or 8 dive guides.
And they were all concerned what was going on with this tiger shark. And did you end up naming that tiger shark?
No, I just always, I found out later she was a 15.5-foot tiger shark. And she was a regular, because they would feed the sharks. And so she was a regular. They were used to her personality. But she really liked me and would not leave me alone. And so when I surfaced, they, of course, made sure I didn't have any food on me or anything. They checked all my pockets.
No
and,
cuts, no bruises,
right,
what was attracting the tiger
right.
shark to Holly?
So it's still a mystery.
And you still went back in the water after that?
Yes, they did not want me to go on the second dive, but I was insistent. That's one thing that people that know me know I'm insistent.
Sharks. I would have never thought I would meet someone that says they love sharks and they love being in the water, uncaged and that close. The video is impressive. If you ever meet Holly Darby, make sure she still has that video on her phone of the tiger shark following her, headbutting you, nudging you
with her. And I guess the other thing I do, after my daughter graduated college and everything, I was thinking, wow, because I love to learn. I love to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, now what do I do? And now I wasn't paying for a college. So I went and got my pilot's license. So I'm a private pilot as well. And my dad he's been a pilot and an instructor for I think he had his pilot's license before his driver's license, I think.
Wow.
And so now my dad and I get to go fly and just hang out.
Awesome.
So that's the other thing I do.
That's awesome. Well, our time is almost up, and I give all the podcast hosts one more time to give a best piece of advice to those listeners and watching us today that can influence your career or life in general. What is the best part of advice that you could give or that you've heard that you want to turn into a soundbite for them?
Most of my training, I do training for my clients as well. And one piece that people seem to get really stuck on and ask the most questions about, and I've heard 3 of the speakers this weekend use something similar. And this is one area where I know in my past lives, when managers would come to me with an issue from an employee, don't assume. Or if you are going to assume positive intent. Don't automatically go to negative. Look at it from take a deeper dive. Of course, being a scuba diver, that's always
that's a good joke
take
in
a
there.
deeper dive. And
wow.
So I usually, during my trainings, I usually use the iceberg, where you can see the tip, but then the rest is underneath. And diving deeper, asking those leading questions to make sure you understand the situation. You don't know what they're going through, So
thank you for your time today, Holly.
No problem. I appreciate you letting me.
If you want to connect with Holly, you can find Holly Darby on LinkedIn. If you'd like for her to come speak at your chapters or at a corporate event, she's available to do that as well. And you can find Unplug with Mel on LinkedIn as well to comment and get to know us on that part. We'll be on YouTube and Spotify as well as Apple. Take us with you on your workouts or in the car or sit down and watch us. If you do find us and connect, let Holly know that you heard her on Unplug with Mel, and let the journey begin on networking and connection. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Holly.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I love this. Until next time.
Awesome.